Heading down the highway looking for adventure. I am off a rest stop, southern Washington, almost to Portland, an hour out of Portland actually. Leaving Seattle this morning, it's a 3-hour about drive. I'm going to pick up Joseph Maslov Jr. I just got a fucking speeding ticket. I haven't had a speeding ticket in over 25 years. Apparently going 65 in a 60 mile per hour zone in my little VW GTI. Now, I-5 here, it goes from 70 and then 60. And literally when I get back on the freeway after getting the ticket, a mile later, it's back up to 70. So really, give me a break. I need to protest that one or do some community service. I might have to tell people about what records to buy while you're driving. And then if I do that, maybe I'll get it off because I don't want it on my record. It affects insurance. So this is Mazzy's vlog, driving vlog. Isn't it gorgeous here? Look at this. I mean, Pacific Northwest this time of year. Unfortunately, this weekend, I'm only going down, then I'm coming back up to Seattle. Long story. But anyway, this weekend it's going to hit 100, I think, in Seattle. It's going to hit like 105 or something, 108. In Portland. Are you fucking kidding me? That's like, I don't think it's only been apparently 100 degrees in Seattle, something like 3 or 4 times in the last 50 years or something. Crazy. We're not used to that. Nobody has air conditioning here. So I'm going to have to, I don't want my records to warp with the heat. So whatever. See you next time.
Of course, yeah. It's always best to have more footage than too much footage.
We can have more footage. So, Mazzy and Mazzy Jr. Can I call you Mazzy Jr.?
You can call whatever you like.
Okay.
I would love that.
We're talking music here, and the theme is genres, different genres. And you and I have listened to a lot of music together over the last, literally 30 years. Since
I was a baby.
Yeah, and I used to like brainwash you and at home in the car, hold you up. I remember holding you up, and I won't get into old, baby shit because I don't want to embarrass you.
I love baby shit.
Okay, I didn't. But I remember holding you up, playing REM's "Losing My Religion," cranking it on Florida Street, and playing "Losing My Religion" on that CD. Is that at a time? I would forget which REM record.
That's a good question.
But it's a great. I mean, what a great single! What a great record that is. I mean, aside from Automatic for the People, are you an REM fan at all?
I love REM. It's great.
All right. Well, let's talk about genres.
Okay.
We've gone to see live music when you were younger. I took you to some shows and stuff. But I'm just curious, and I brainwashed you with a lot of stuff in the car, whether in different genres. So name some genres that you like, and then we'll get into maybe a little deeper conversation.
I guess for me, naming genres is a little more difficult than just naming bands, right?
That's kind of the fucking concept. So, okay, you want to go off topic?
No. Okay, well,
you go off topic. Okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's what makes you happy.
I feel like that's on topic because I remember as a kid, you exposed me to so much music that I don't know. For example, I have the distinct memory of you're playing a lot of Radiohead and getting really excited about that Kid A album when it came on. And I feel like
that's 20 years ago. So that was 2000 or 2001? So
right.
Wow. So you're about 10, 11 when I turned you into Radiohead.
And what would you like? I know early Radiohead they kind of consider rock
a different band, Britpop rock, guitar based, like Creep and
right. But what they turned into, like what genre would you call Kid A?
Well, it's more on the electronica side,
right?
Electronic, and a lot of the early fans of Radiohead, they get their panties in the bunch, and they almost didn't like when they went electronic and like where the fuck are their guitars now? We can say fuck because you're old enough, by the way. Not guitar based, and there was all these bands, but they tried something a little different. And what I love about artists is when they evolve, so
right.
So I went back, actually. In fact, I distinctly remember going back to OK Computer, because I remember seeing the OK Computer on all these friggin' best of lists on Mojo and Q, all the Brit magazines. And I didn't get it right away, or I didn't buy it until after Kid A. And, you know, I think Today's a much better record, but I get that. But then I went back and got Pablo Honey, and in fact, my favorite of all time early period, well, I consider early period Radiohead, is a song called Fake Plastic Trees.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous song, right?
Well, what would you call that? What genre was Fake Plastic
I mean,
Trees?
it's a rock song, but it's a ballad rock song.
Really? You call that rock?
Well, it's rock. I mean, everything is rock. I mean, everything's I put in the rock and roll catalog category. A lot of people, you know, I've done these videos on subgenres, and people get really upset because they'll say, "Oh, that's not psychedelic. That is something else." But for the sake of how I see it, for my taste, I put it in these categories. Rock is pretty much almost everything.
Well, okay. Here's another.
Except Pachelbel's Canon in D, which is classical.
Or
everything else is rock.
Or polka.
Well,
even polka also.
Well, I have an album by Polka Side. Polka Side, actually a friend of our good friend Brooks and Vernon, had a band in San Francisco in the 80s, 90s, I guess, called Polka Side, and they were a polka punk band. So there you go. So
I guess so. For example, I don't know. I think I have the genre discussion is always interesting to me because exactly as you described, you know, the moment you tether a piece of work to a genre, people start arguing about it, right? And so it's for me putting, you know, I listen to so much, so if I had to. It's much easier for me to name bands than to name genres, because if I name genres, then it starts an argument. Where if I name band, it's like, okay, I have an understanding of what you. For example, I love Beck, right? But almost every Beck album is a completely different genre, right?
Beck's a good example, and what I love is I remember the Beck album that sold you, or that you fell in love with. The Beck album, that's Midnight Vultures.
Yeah, and that's the Prince album that.
Well, that's what I always say this, and I think it's true. Midnight Vultures is the best Prince album Prince never made. It's like at that point, it's such a great funky soulful album for a little white boy went from East LA or something. Because he's made, we were playing just in the car a few minutes ago. Beck came on random from Mellow Gold, and I started thinking like that's like a folk record, or it's like a psychedelic freak folk record, country overtones, and he's done so many things. Now he's in his dance kick of all these dance. He's done the Moody stuff. He's done the Serge Gainsbourg French pop. I think he's one of the most creative artists of the last quarter century or so.
Have you seen that interview with Johnny Cash where he's both him and Beck are on tour, and it's about Johnny Cash talking about how fascinating he finds Beck.
No.
Which I thought was really interesting, and I love the idea of the two of them going on tour. And it's when Beck was much younger. So
well, I mean, it would be an easy tour now because basically you could just bring a box with him or some ashes, because Johnny Cash is.
Was he cremated?
I don't know. But he could be in a box. I mean, either way. It's
I guess that just depends on the size of the box.
It did. Exactly.
I think
he could do them bones.
Well, another question I have is how do you notice music, even not just when I say when I ask you music genres changing, I don't necessarily mean like, oh, the things we identify as rock inspiring things that are partly rock and then become a new genre. For example, I mentioned earlier how I've been listening to a lot of city pop, right? Which is kind of a label that people have been putting onto like weird, like fun 80s, early 90s poppy kind of big American influenced Japanese music.
Well,
right?
see, when I think of city pop, I think of Japanese music.
Totally.
Isn't that kind of where it came from?
And my question to you
go ahead.
Is that there's a lot of music that comes back into vogue that's 30, 40 years old, and then I know it as city pop, but did that genre have a different name back then?
Well, it's funny, this has come up a lot, and people have chimed in. I've done conversations with some friends and some foes and then back and forth sometimes with commenters who I get a lot of not a lot, I shouldn't say this, I get a handful of wankers on my responding on my, what the word wankers is, wanker?
I think so. I think I'm familiar.
Well, it's kind
Bozos.
of but that works too. It comes from the Brits mostly, the
Yeah.
UK Brits. I love wankers. It's one of those words I probably overuse. I use way too much. But when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of. There was folk music, there was rock and roll, and then there was things like psychedelic happen. But it wasn't like we didn't see it as a separate genre. We just saw that a band, whether it's the Beatles or Procol Harum or Pink Floyd or whoever, was getting more psychedelic. It wasn't that they were a psychedelic band.
Right.
I mean, a lot of people think, oh, the Beatles are not a psychedelic band. I mean, Sgt. Pepper's really not psychedelic, but they've done some very psychedelic songs. Like, I think Magic Mystery Tour has more psychedelic songs per capita, but they were doing it on Revolver and so on. So we didn't really think of, again, folk music, jazz, classical, that was pretty much it. But all these subgenres started happening in the 70s, like country rock, progressive, which is prog. You know what prog is?
Yeah, like Yes, and...
Do you like prog?
Yeah, I love prog rock.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me some prog bands or what you like about prog, or just tell me something about prog.
I mean, they're kind of a lot of the rock opera stuff, right? Like kind of proggy, kind of like each song, if you're not paying attention, can feel like three different songs, right? It's like
so different movements within one song.
Different movements.
So in a way, prog is a mix of rock, classical,
right,
jazz sometimes.
Exactly.
It depends on exactly.
And
it is different movements, different time signatures, sometimes story, thematic.
Totally. And I think, again, earlier we were talking about, by listening to, what was it, King Gizzard, right? And they're oh god, I can't remember the name of the album, but it has a really abstract kind of painted cover.
Oh, that one.
Well, it has like the real geometric shapes. I can't remember what it's called, but it's clearly.
In 10 miles, keep left onto East State Route 3.
Thank you.
By the way, that's Siri, because we're on the Olympic Peninsula in Washington State, very close to Aberdeen, where you know who's from Aberdeen?
Do I know?
Yeah,
probably many people.
You do?
I don't know.
Okay, what dead rock star was from Aberdeen? Unless I'm mixing this up.
I don't know.
You know Kurt Cobain?
I do know Kurt Cobain.
You do?
I do.
Okay, what band was he in?
Nirvana.
I used to test him when we were together. I go, who's that?
Who
wrote that song?
It's so funny because I feel like there's a distance because we don't live with each other anymore, that when you ask me them, they're like,
of course I know it.
Easy big picture kind of gimmies. They're not. I feel like you usually bring them up as if they're challenging, because I know you are knowledgeable enough that you could really give me some hard ones, but you never do. It's always like, oh, who wrote this? And it's like, oh, Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Johnny Cash.
Or no, what's the answer? Who wrote this?
It's always Bob Dylan.
It's always Bob Dylan.
It's always Bob Dylan.
I used to do that when you were little. I said, who wrote this song? Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan.
9 out of 10 times have I said that it was Bob Dylan.
And that's still true.
It's totally true. It's Bob fucking Dylan, man.
Did you know 4 out of 5 songs are written by Bob Dylan?
I didn't know that.
No, but
do you know who Phil Collins is?
I know of Phil Collins, and I am aware of his work on the Tarzan Disney film soundtrack.
That's the only thing he's ever done.
I think that's his only album.
That's his only album. Tarzan, Phil Collins, Tarzan.
And then I think
Phil fucking Collins.
I think Seal's only.
Seal, the black singer?
Yes.
I haven't heard of him in a while.
I think his only the one track he's ever made was "Kiss from a Rose" for the Batman. Was it Batman Forever?
I don't know, because the first one was Prince. Prince did that whole Batman thematic funk, which doesn't fit with the fucking movie.
No, all these Batman movies have the
right.
Is it Forever or
Forever's the one when is that the one Batman got the nipples?
I don't know.
Is that the one with
I don't keep
George
track
Clooney?
I don't keep track of the Batman nipple canon.
Okay. All right.
but I
Schwarzenegger was in one of those.
I think,
Freeze.
Yeah, he was Mr. Freeze, and then in that same movie, Uma Thurman was
Poison Ivy.
Poison Ivy.
Right. I mean, there's too many. I hate when they put too many bad people. Was Jim Carrey like the Riddler in that?
I don't know. That was a different one. I think those were the two key villains.
I think when they put too many, unless they're doing like an Avengers type thing. We're getting off track of genres now, but that's okay. Back to music.
But yeah, I was just saying, like, with the prog rock, the King Gizzard did one that was like pretty heavily emulates Yes, and all their prog rocky stuff with the long movements and things like that. And I really enjoy that stuff. And so I guess I was asking specifically about the city pop stuff because I wonder if genre names even change over time, right?
Well,
something that you would have called, I don't know, like maybe that genre had a different name back then, but nowadays since it's returning, now we have to have a name for it.
I don't have a specific answer to you because in truth, for me, I'd never heard the term of city pop in the last 5 years or so.
Okay, so that's recent for you.
For me.
Okay.
And I learned it because of these comps I've been buying, the Japanese city pop.
Okay.
Where they're emulating some pop music. I mean, I want to say, and someone's going to comment, probably knows a lot more than I do on this, and I'll admit it, I don't know the answer to this. But there's a disco stuff, there's a pop stuff, there's upbeat bubblegum music.
Right.
Taking those types of things and mixing it together, make it danceable, make it catchy, make it top 40. But to me, it's like certain things have to go away. Okay, good example is going back to the 1960s. The British blues bands like the Yardbirds, early Fleetwood Mac, John Mayall, a lot of these young British guitar players and singers, the Animals, Eric Burton and the Animals, Van Morrison, were listening to American blues artists. And a lot of artists in R&B, a lot of these blues artists, most Americans didn't even friggin' know about. I mean, I learned about American blues from listening to those bands, the Rolling Stones, the Yardbirds, Fleetwood Mac. I mean, the Beatles were really, blues-based. They came from R&B and the girl groups like the Motown and the Phil Spector girl groups and stuff. So it had to go somewhere else to come back here for us to appreciate it. And I don't know if city pop is the same thing. Although maybe there was a whole audience that I just wasn't into. I mean, teeny bopper music in a way, but it's not really I don't see it as teeny bopper.
And I guess a follow up to that is, I feel like I'm experiencing. So someone can correct this too, but my understanding of city pop is that it is very much made in Japan, heavily influenced by a lot of American music, and then with that new wave of synths, right? Synths and all that synth tech, and it's super. It's all of the instruments, or most of them, are synthesized and whatnot. And I wonder, with today, with how globalized everything is, I wonder if maybe most of that stuff didn't even make it over here.
Well,
or to what extent?
I don't think it did, because now that I think about it, I have these two collections. I think there's a third one coming out, and I forgot the names of the collections. I've shown them on my channel here. But these two Japanese city pop collections are basically stuff from the 70s and 80s. Right. So it's not brand new stuff.
No, it's not.
But I never heard the term in the 70s and 80s. And I guess it was called that, or is it just a collection of things? Now they're packaging it in the last decade or so and putting out. Was it called city pop? And anybody who knows this Japanese stuff, I would like to know that. I'd like to watch someone do a thing on city pop and who really knows about it and has dug deep into it, because I don't know about it. I like it when I heard most of it.
Right.
But it's kind of like I've been getting these African records from Analog Africa. And there's this whole series, African Scream Pop, which are like psychedelic Afro-funk from the 70s and 80s, and a collection of stuff, Afro beats, but very psychedelic, reverb-drenched, almost lo-fi guitar stuff, funky, poppy, dancey, a mix of funk, and it's so cool. I never heard that stuff at the time when it came out on these like little records, and probably regional records, and mostly in Africa and the African continents.
It's super cool.
I wonder if you'd like that stuff.
Oh, it sounds rad.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, let's wind this down. So, anything else you want to say about musically? I mean, we kept it kind of narrow. Maybe we'll do this another one later. But what are you listening to now?
That's I think lately with a lot of, I mentioned I do a lot of boards, and that involves a lot of writing and a lot of working with scripts and a lot of things like that.
You mean storyboards?
Storyboards.
I just want to explain for the...
Yeah, and so when I'm just drawing, I can listen to anything. But if I'm working with language, like working with a script and have to read while drawing and do all this kind of stuff, I have to have music on that doesn't have...
Instrumental?
It's more instrumental stuff. Or, again, stuff in another language. So I think the city pop stuff has been really, really nice to kind of keep my energy going while I work and not have to distract me with the lyrics.
That reminds me, when I used to write a lot, the same thing. If I had lyrics, I would start writing the lyrics.
I do the same thing, yeah.
And so I'd have to have instrumental music, and that's where I play a lot of jazz or other instrumental stuff,
Yeah, it's been
jammy.
It's been a lot of city pop stuff, a lot of oh my god, I'm blanking on his name. He does the Chameleon.
Contemporary?
God, what's his track? Chameleon.
Karma, Chameleon?
No.
Karma.
Headhunters.
Oh, Herbie Hancock.
Herbie Hancock. I've been listening to a lot of Herbie Hancock.
So you like kind of electro funk in a way?
Oh yeah.
Electro jazz.
Oh yeah. And
that's right. We did play. We had on a little while ago, like 1973, 74,
right,
or 5. Miles Davis, where he got like really tweaky out there. What's that? Down on the Corner album. The outtakes Down on the Corner. You like that? I always wonder what people are going to like, but you like other Miles too. You like the melodic.
I love Miles Davis.
Like Kinda Blue. Do you know that album?
Yeah. So kind of just try to relax.
In 1 mile, keep left onto East State Route 3.
Thank you.
Keep left in 1 mile.
Keep left. Okay. All right. Well, I think that's about it for now.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
good.
Joe, Mazzy, it's a pleasure. Let's sojourn on.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.